Everybody, welcome back. In this video, we are going to begin the process of actually adding some UI components to our login page. So with that said, let's get into it and let's see how to do it. So in the previous video, we had our build UI function, which was returning an empty scaffold, and we're going to be now adding some of the logic of building some of the stuff to the scaffold. The first thing that I'm going to do is that I am going to define a property for our scaffold, and that is going to be the body attribute. And then for the body, I'm going to say that it's going to be a container. Now that once that is done, the next thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to open it up and I'm going to start defining some things for the container. The first thing that I'm going to define for the container is going to be the padding, and the padding is going to be the padding from the left and the right side. And to do that, I'm going to do edge insets.symmetric. So what that means is that we define some horizontal and vertical padding, and those values are applied to both the left and the right and the top and the bottom respectively. So now what I'm going to do is that I'm going to define the horizontal padding first, and the horizontal in this case is going to be the device height times 0.03. But how do we get access to the device height? Well, what we're going to do is that in top of our login page state, I'm going to define two variables, and I'll say they're late double, and then I'll call this device height, and then late double device width. The double keyword tells Dart that these variables are not going to initially have a value, but we take responsibility that later on in the lifecycle of our application that we'll define some values for the device height and device width, just not at the instance when the actual login page is being created. Then what we'll do is that we'll go to our actual build function, and inside of our build function, I'm going to define the device height, and I'll set that equal to media query, and then dot of sorry about that, of context dot, and then I'm going to do size dot height, and then once this is done, I'm going to do device width, and I'll set that equal to the same line, except for the fact that I'll change the height to the width, and I'm going to do command save. Now I'll go down to where we were building our build UI functions and where we're defining the horizontal padding, and now I'm going to take our device's width, and we're going to say that 0.03, so 3% of our device's width, we're going to add that much corresponding padding to the left and the right side, and do command save. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to define the vertical padding. The vertical padding is going to be similar. We'll have the device's height, but this time instead of multiplying it with 0.03, we'll just multiply it with 0.02 and do command save. Now that this is done, what I can do is that I can go on to defining the height and the width for our container. So this just refers to the height and the width of our container. And that is going to be the device's height times 0.98. And then the width is going to be the device's width times 0.97 and do command save. Finally, the last thing is going to be the child attribute. So what is going to be the child for our container? And I'm going to say that it's going to be a column. And a column widget is just a widget that allows us to actually put a lot of different widgets inside of it in a fashion that they are put just like how columns are in an Excel spreadsheet, let's just say. So in a vertical manner. So now that I have the column defined, the first thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to define some of the attributes for my column. So the first one is going to be the main axis is size. So I'm going to say that the main axis is stretched to the maximum size that it can have. So in the case of a column, the main axis is the horizontal or the vertical axis, sorry. And in the case of a row, it would have been the horizontal axis. And then with this, I'm going to define the main axis alignment, and the main axis alignment is going to be main axis alignment dot center. And then I'm going to have cross axis alignment. So how the element should be aligned on the cross axis, and that'll be center as well. And then with this, I'll define the actual children for our column. I'm going to do command save. And I'm going to now add the first children, and that is going to be our page's title. And it's going to be a function that I'm going to define in the class down below. And this function is going to be responsible for creating our page title. So I'm just following the approach of actually modularizing our code, and I want the functions to be fairly small and well-defined, and that's why I'm kind of like splitting the functionality into functions. And for the page title, we'll just return a container. And this container is going to have a height, and this height is going to be the device's height times 0.10. And then with that, we'll have a child for this container. And this time, the child is going to be a text widget. Don't forget to add the semicolon at the end. And then this text widget is going to have the title of Chatify, and then also a style attribute. But before I define the style, what I'd like to do is do command save so that we can actually see that the actual title is showing up, as you can see here. And now we can actually define the styling for our page title. So the style in this case is going to be text style. And we're going to have firstly the color, which is going to be color.white. And then with this, we'll have the font size. So the size of the font, and that is going to be 40. And then finally, we'll have a thing called as the font weight. So that kind of refers to the thickness of the font. And that's going to be font weight dot W600. With this, I'll do Alt-Shift-F, Command save, and you're going to see that our title is now appearing on our login page. So now that this is done, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to end this video here, and I'll see you guys in the next video where we're going to continue building our components for our login page. So thank you for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.